I used to believe the galaxy didn't care about people like me. Back on Earth, I was a replaceable part in a humming machine, one more body on the assembly line of Helios Industrial Fabrication Plant 9, stamping alloy plates for ships I'd never fly on. 12-hour shifts, recycled air, the taste of metal dust in my mouth, and a bunk the size of a coffin at the end of it all. The kind of life that grinds you down so evenly you don't even notice the erosion until there's almost nothing left. So when the recruiter said off-world, I didn't ask questions. I signed. The contract promised triple pay, hazard compensation, and transport to a stable interstellar partner world. That phrase should have scared me. Instead, it sounded like escape. I packed what little I owned, 2 shirts, an old photo of my mother, and a pair of work gloves I trusted more than most people, and boarded a carrier that smelled like disinfectant and fear. That was how I crossed the galaxy as a factory worker. I had no idea I'd return as a shield. The world was called Vale Taris, though most humans just called it the hive. From orbit, it looked like a bruise against the velvet of space, deep purples and blacks threaded with glowing veins of amber light. The atmosphere was breathable, technically, but heavy with spores that clung to your lungs if you didn't wear filters. The factory complex sat on the edge of a colossal city grown rather than built. Towers curved like bones, bridges pulsed faintly as if alive, and the ground itself seemed to shift underfoot. The aliens, Volari, were tall, elegant, and unsettling. Their skin shimmered with an iridescent sheen, and their eyes reflected light like cut gems. They didn't talk much to us. We were there to work, not to understand. The job was brutal but familiar, refining adaptive alloys used in Volari warships. The material responded to heat, pressure, even emotion, according to the engineers. To me, it was just another stubborn metal that needed coaxing into shape. I worked the furnaces, adjusted flow regulators, and learned to read the subtle color changes that meant the alloy was about to destabilize. I was good at it. Good enough that supervisors, human and alien, started routing more difficult batches to my station. Good enough that I was kept on rotation when others were cycled out or sent back broken. I didn't complain. Complaints were for people who thought someone was listening. That changed the day the siren screamed. The attack came without warning. One moment, I was knee-deep in molten alloy, sweat soaking my collar. The next, the entire complex shuddered as if struck by a god's fist. The lights dimmed, flared, and died. Emergency luminescence washed the factory floor in red. Then the sky tore open. Explosions rippled through the city, beyond the factory walls. I could hear it even through reinforced plating, the distant thunder of orbital bombardment, the shriek of tearing structures. Volari guards flooded the corridors, their movements sharp and panicked in a way I'd never seen. We were herded toward evacuation tunnels, but something went wrong. A blast collapsed the main access route, sealing hundreds of us inside a secondary processing wing. That was where they came for her. The doors at the far end of the chamber dissolved under focused energy. Shapes poured through, tall, armored, wrong. Their weapons hummed, with a sickly green light that made my teeth ache. Invaders. Not Volari. Something older, harsher. The workers scattered. I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the years of conditioning that told me to stay at my station until told otherwise. All I know is that when the smoke cleared, I saw her. The alien queen. She didn't wear a crown. She didn't need to. The air around her seemed to bend, as if reality itself was paying attention. Her form was taller than any Volari I'd seen, her armor grown rather than forged, layered in living plates that pulse softly. Her eyes, those impossible, luminous eyes, locked onto the invaders with cold fury. She was bleeding. A deep gash split one side of her armor. ichor-like fluid glowing faintly as it spilled. She staggered, clearly wounded, and the invaders advanced, weapons raising. I moved. I don't remember deciding. I just remember grabbing a slab of half-cooled adaptive alloy from the casting rack. It was still hot enough to burn through my gloves, heavy enough to crush my arms under its weight. I stepped between the Queen and the incoming fire. The first blast hit the alloy. Instead of punching through, the metal shifted. It flowed, hardened, thickened where the energy struck. The impact knocked me flat, but the shield held. The Queen stared at me. Another blast. Another. Each time, the alloy adapted, warping to absorb the force. My arms screamed in protest. My lungs burned. But I stayed upright. I didn't know I was screaming until afterward. The Volari counterattacked, their weapons singing through the chamber. The invaders fell back, then retreated entirely, dragging their wounded with them. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of cooling metal and my ragged breathing. The Queen approached me slowly. Up close, she was terrifying, beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. Ancient power coiled just beneath the surface. She reached out, one clawed hand hovering inches from my face. I thought she was going to kill me. Instead, she bowed. They took me with her. Not to a cell. Not to an interrogation chamber. To a living sanctum at the heart of the hive, where walls breathed softly and light filtered through organic membranes overhead. Volari attendants moved with reverent efficiency, tending to the Queen's wounds while casting curious glances my way. I stood there, hands shaking, still smelling of smoke and molten metal. Through a translator drone, the Queen spoke. "You placed your body between death and my life," she said. Her voice resonated through my bones, layered with harmonics that made each word feel heavier than the last. Why? I opened my mouth, closed it, laughed once, weakly. Honestly, I said. Habit. The drone hesitated, as if unsure how to process that. The Queen's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but interest. "You are a worker," she said. "Not a soldier. Not sworn to my protection." "No," I agreed. "Just a guy who knows how to hold something heavy for a long time." A silence stretched between us. Then she did something that changed my life forever. She smiled. "In our history," she said, "there is an ancient role. One who stands not because of oath, but because they choose to endure. We call them Vaishkor, the living shield." My stomach dropped. "I don't want," I started. "You will be protected," she continued. "Honored. Bound to me only as long as you wish. But while you stand at my side, no harm will reach me unless it first passes through you." I swallowed. I thought of Earth, of the factory lines, of dying anonymously with a wrench in my hand. I nodded. "Okay," I said. "I'll stand." They reforged the alloy around me, not as armor, but as an extension of my will. The metal responded to my fear, my resolve, my stubborn refusal to fall. It wrapped around my arms and torso, a living bulwark that shifted with every threat. The Volari engineers watched in awe, whispering that no off-world had ever bonded with adaptive alloys so completely. I trained, not with blades or guns, but with endurance, learning how to read incoming fire, how to angle my body so the shield took the worst of it, learning how to breathe through pain that would have broken me a year earlier. The Queen, Xylos, she told me her name, was often watched. Sometimes she spoke to me during quiet moments, asking about Earth, about factories and labor unions, and the strange human habit of working ourselves into dust. She listened like it mattered. The war came in waves. Each time I stood, I felt the impact of weapons meant to crack starships. I felt the tremor of reality-bending strikes that made my vision blur and my teeth rattle. I bled. I broke bones. The alloy held, and so did I. Because when I faltered, I felt her presence behind me, steady, unwavering. Not commanding. Trusting. Once, after a particularly brutal engagement, I collapsed to one knee, vision swimming. Her hand rested on my shoulder. "You may step aside," she said softly. "No dishonor lies in survival." I looked up at her. "I didn't cross the galaxy to quit halfway," I said. She laughed then, a sound like chimes in a storm. "The final battle came at the hive's edge. The invaders unleashed everything they had, a desperate push to end the Volari line by killing their queen. The sky burned. The ground split. I took hit after hit, the alloy screaming as it adapted faster than ever before. I felt myself giving out. And then I felt something else. Hands. Not just mine. The Volari workers, guards, civilians pressed in behind me, adding their strength, their will. The alloy flared with light, fed by hundreds of lives choosing to stand together. The attack broke. When the smoke cleared, I was still standing. Barely. Xylos knelt beside me, her regal composure cracking for the first time. "You have fulfilled your role," she said. "The war is won. You may return to your people, honored forever." I looked at the city, at the beings who had become my own. "At first," I said, "I just wanted to escape a factory." She waited. "Now," I continued, "I think I found something worth standing in front of." Her eyes softened. "Then stay," she said. "Not as my shield, as yourself." I still consider myself a factory worker. I still know how to hold something heavy for a long time. The difference is now, when I stand, the galaxy notices. That decision didn't come with fireworks or a ceremonial proclamation. No galaxy-wide announcement. No sudden transformation into something I wasn't. I simply didn't board the transport when it came to take surviving human workers home. The shuttle doors closed without me. For the first time in my life, no supervisor shouted. No clock counted down my worth in hours and output. The hive continued to breathe around me, alive and immense, and Queen Xylos stood beside me. Not behind my shield, not above me on a throne, but simply there. The war was over, but peace turned out to be harder. The Volari had won, yet the cost ran deep. Entire districts lay hollowed out. Living towers slumped like wounded giants. The adaptive alloy foundries, once instruments of war, fell silent, waiting for new purpose. That's when Xylos asked me something I never expected. "Will you help us rebuild?" she said. Not command. Not order. Ask. I laughed softly, rubbing the scar tissue along my forearms where the alloy had fused and unfused so many times. "I don't know politics. I don't know queens and courts." She tilted her head. "You know labor. You know endurance. You know what it means to give your strength and receive nothing in return." That hit harder than any weapon. So I helped. I walked the ruins with engineers and workers, Volari and human alike, figuring out how to repurpose the factories. We turned weapons foundries into infrastructure plants. Alloy meant for shields became bridges, shelters, pressure domes for damaged districts. The adaptive metal responded to intention. It always had. Under my hands, it learned new shapes. Under our hands, it learned hope. Months passed. My role changed slowly, almost without me noticing. I wasn't just a worker anymore, but I wasn't a noble either. I became something in between. A liaison. A reminder. When tensions flared between species, I stood there, not with alloy raised, but with calloused hands and a calm voice. I reminded everyone that survival wasn't glamorous. That victory was built by people who stayed when it hurt. Some Volari still bowed when they saw me. I asked them not to Queen Xyril never stopped watching me, not possessively, not distantly, just attentively, like someone observing a fire they'd once needed for warmth and now simply enjoyed. One night, in the quiet glow of the hive's inner gardens, she spoke again. "You were forged by systems that never valued you," she said. "Yet you gave everything when it mattered most. Does that not anger you?" I thought of Earth, of Helios Plant 9, of thousands of workers who'd never leave their stations, never be seen. "It used to," I said. "Now it reminds me why I stand where I do." She studied me for a long time. "Among my people," she said carefully, "the Vaishkor are never forgotten, but they are also never bound." Her hand extended, not a command, an invitation. "You may leave at any time," she said, "or you may remain not as a shield, but as my equal voice." I didn't answer right away. I looked at the stars above Vale Taris, alien constellations that no longer felt distant. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere down there were factories still humming, workers still invisible. "I think," I said slowly, "I crossed the galaxy to learn one thing." "And what is that?" she asked. "That a shield isn't meant to stand forever," I said. "It's meant to make space for something better." She smiled, not like a queen, like a person. Years later, human historians would argue over me. Some called me a hero. Some called me a myth. Some insisted I'd been genetically altered or chosen by prophecy. They always needed it to be something special. They were wrong. I was just a factory worker who didn't move when it would have been easier to run. The Volari never built statues of me. They didn't need to. Instead, they named a principle after what I represented. Not strength, not sacrifice, but presence. Stand when it matters. Endure so others don't have to. And whenever the queen of the hive walks among her people, she no longer walks behind a shield. She walks beside me, still breathing, still human, still holding something heavy. Only now, it's the future.